Happy 4th of July, everybody! Another year of America's birthday. Yeah, it's been a long journey over these past centuries, hasn't it? A lot of you know that we've come a long way since then. That our freedom has lasted all this time. But remember, there are still ways that we can improve as a country. There's always room for improvement, just like how it was all those years ago. Honestly, we don't really have to do what the Founding Fathers intended, because things were different back then. The entire world was so different back in their time. Just because they're the creators of America doesn't mean we have to believe that we have to do everything like everything like they did all those years ago. Because things weren't as good back then. The times were different. The world wasn't as a prosperous and healthy place as it is today. Also, we can't deny that back then we made many mistakes with our country and with our world. And one of those biggest mistakes was slavery. That is definitely one of the biggest mistakes that our world ever made back then. We have to make sure that we learn from those mistakes without sugarcoating or denying that what we did back then was wrong. If only by accepting the mistakes that we made in the past and not trying to cover them up can we truly make our country a better place. And when making our country a better place, we have to take something really big into consideration, and that is the overall happiness and health of all people, no matter what differences they may have. We can't afford to be selfish and only want what's best for people that are like the majority, or like certain type of people, or like ourselves in general, in a certain kind of personal aspect. We really need to be compassionate and take consideration of everybody, no matter what differences they may have to the majority or any other kind of differences to any other kind of people. That really is the best thing to do, that we come together as a whole kind of people, a whole kind of people in this country. No matter what our differences are, no matter what our stories are, the fact is we are all alive, and all living things deserve compassion and understanding. All living things deserve health and happiness. We as human beings need to unite and be accepting and fair towards each other if we're ever going to find health and happiness. That's why when it comes to being a good country, we have to stay in consideration to everybody's health and happiness. Now, unfortunately, there are many people who believe that it's wrong to make changes, that it's wrong to change things because they just believe that it's wrong to make change. But what they don't understand is that the reason why we're trying to change is to make things better, or at least the majority of states try to do that. At least I hope so. You see, it's all about changing to make things better for everybody. Not just the majority of people, but for everybody. To give the greatest amount of happiness and the greatest health for the greatest number of people, for everybody. Yes. That's the thing. We make change to make everybody happier and healthier. That's basically what it's all about. So, trying to keep things the same, depending on the situation, might not be the best thing to do, because you have to think of what can make things better for everybody, no matter what their difference is, their status, or their story, or whatever. The fact is, we're all alive, and all living things deserve to be happy and healthy. Yes. So, take certain things in the past, for example. I mean, back in the past, there was segregation, and certain people were denied certain things because of their race. And that caused a lot of sadness and could even poorly affect people's health. Now, that's a bad thing because we don't want that for any kind of person, for a society or a country to be in a way that makes them sad or unhealthy. That's why we got rid of segregation, so that everybody could be happier and healthier. That's why we do our best to change things for the better. Now, unfortunately, there are some cases where changes don't make things better. And that's when people have to take some things into real consideration. What you need to take into consideration is the health and happiness of everybody. Think of what an individual's feelings are, what they need to be healthy and happy. It's not just about the majority, it's about everybody. It's about considering majorities, minorities as a whole. Yes. That's why in America we always have fair say. That's why we have voting, to make sure that everything is fair about people's decisions, to make sure that everybody's opinions are considered, because everybody is free to vote, not just the majority of the country, but everybody is free to vote, no matter what their differences are. See, it's always about being fair, because fairness in society always makes people happiest and healthiest. It really is sad that some people think that fairness only destroys. That's just plain wrong, because being fair is good. it's goodness. And being unfair and inconsiderate of others because of their differences is wrong because it makes people unhappy and unhealthy. And that's very inconsiderate and unkind. See, change doesn't have to be a bad thing. And we've changed a lot over all these years. We don't have to consider what the founding fathers wanted anymore. Our country is now in a whole different world. We can now focus on considering what's best for the health and happiness of all people of our country. That should be our top priority. That should really be our top priority. Because a good country is a country where all its citizens are happy and healthy. That's really all people would ask for a good country. Yes. And I really hope that this 4th of July, people will really take that into consideration to not be so afraid of changing from what things were back then. And remember that the world and our country is different and better than it was before. Because so many people these days are much happier and healthier than they were hundreds of years ago. And we have the resources and the tools necessary to be better than we were all those centuries ago. So, in that kind of case, change is not a bad thing. We must be willing to do what it takes to ensure that everyone in this country is happy and healthy. Yes, that's what a good country should strive for. The health and happiness of their people. And of course, we can't be happy and healthy if we're not being fair, kind, and considerate to each other. The human race would completely fail if we were unkind or inconsiderate to any kind of person, no matter what their differences are. If we truly want the human race to thrive, we have to be kind and compassionate towards each other. That's really how the world will turn, how the world will thrive. Compassion. I hope that someday people will realize that. I really hope that someday they will.